Alright, now look at Gibs. This is basic setup for Gibs. You have one player who's the second player. They start with the end of turn marker. This is for a two-player game setup. Each player has 5 cards to start. A roll summary. The open market is laid out. The 5 cards in the center is the open market. We got 4 gems out. This is for the basic game. The gem decks sitting next to them. Over here we have the 2 white gem conditionals. If 2 players have the below condition, plus 4 VP cards. If a single player has the below condition, 3 blue gems. If either of those conditions happen, those white gems, they get shuffled into the gem deck. Here's a sample turn. This would be a first turn since the other players don't have anything else they can do. So here's cards for the player 1 hand. Player 1 is going to play a Gib. Alert. Alert is immune to sleep, so nobody can take his gems. Well, at least not through sleeping. You have to kill him first, then you can take. So, player 1 will play that in his play area. When that is played, player 1 can take any card from here, or 1 card from the top here as a victory point. Since red and green affect this Gib, player 1 decides that if anybody's looking at the colors up here, there's a green predator. This green can kill him. So he's going to take this and put it in his point stack. So that gets rid of that there. Immediately, we draw the top card from the deck and put it out. Now it's time for discarding for gems or drawing cards. Looking at his cards, he could discard 2 of his reds to grab those 2 red gems. Or he can build up his hand. At this point, he's going to build his hand up, so he gets 3 card draws. He already has a good supply of red cards in his hand. He wants a little bit more defense, and he also doesn't want anybody to be able to defend against his attacks. So he's going to take this red hide so that nobody else can use it against him. He's then going to take his next card from the top of the deck. So he's taking a blind draw. He gets a green hide. Well, he's going to take this other green hide too because he doesn't want people to be able to defend against him. End of turn, he gets to draw 2 cards. He's just going to pick up this Confused. That counts as 2 card draws. And that ends player 1's turn. Alright, let's look at how Gibs can attack one another. So, right now, we have a Confused red gem Gib. The Confusion ability is that the player who plays Confused can't play red cards. They can still discard them for gems, but they can't use them for attacks or defense. Right now, this is the player's hand. The only attack cards that they do have is they have 2 different sleep cards. One in blue, one in green. Now, if we look at the defending player, it's a resourceful Gib. He has a red gem, a green gem, and a yellow gem. The resourceful Gib is +1 card draw at the start of each of your turns. So he gets cards a lot quicker, but he's easier to attack. When attacking a player, you must attack with one of the colors on the bottom of him. Since we are Confused and we are not allowed to play whatever color our gem is, so this player cannot play a red. So out of the 2 attack cards that we have, a blue and a green, there's no blue gem on this resourceful. However, he can play this green against him. What sleep does is whenever I target somebody with sleep, if they cannot defend it with water, I get to steal one of their gems. So I play sleep against this resourceful. Now let's look at his hand. The resourceful Gib, of course, has more cards because he draws cards all the time. Now, to defend against our Confused, he must play a red card. The only 2 red cards he has is a Predator and a Water. Predator is an attack card, he can't use it off his turn. Water is a defense card, and Water does counter Sleep. Since Sleep is played against him, he'll play the Water to counter the Sleep. They both get discarded. He is unaffected. Now, if the Confused player has other cards they're able to play, they can play them right now. He does have a resourceful Gib. He could play this Gib in order to get a victory point, But if he does this, then more colors can be played against him. Right now, he's feeling pretty good with just this single red. He doesn't know what the other player has in his hand. He would discard for gems if he wishes, or he could draw cards. We were going to skip that part. We're going to go to the next player's turn, and now it's the Resourceful's turn. As we looked before, Resourceful has a couple different things here. So, he only has one red card though, which is this Predator. If he does end up killing him, he's going to get a victory point. So we look back at the cards here. His colors are red, green, and yellow. So to defend against this Predator, I need to play a red, green, or yellow color. Or I could sacrifice a Gib. If I sacrifice a Gib from my hand, the defender gets it as a +1 point. However, this player does have a green hide. He will play it to counter the Predator, since hide counters Predator. Now, if the Resourceful had any other cards, he could play them, which he does. In this case, he is going to look at this Confused, and he wants a little bit more defense, because right now he's getting short on cards to defend himself. If there's another attack, he has no more hides. Confused gives more defense because it's yellow. He doesn't plan on playing this Yellow Sleep since the other player is still already locked into his defensive Confused card. So he's going to play this, which discards this Gib. And he gains a victory point. So he'll gain a card off the deck and put it to his victory pile. That's all there is to combat in Gibs. At the end of the turn, if it ever comes down that you still have to draw cards, there's one card left in the deck here. 5 cards out. This player has not drawn any cards or discarded for gems yet. The only gem in the gem pile right now is a single yellow gem. This player's hand is 2 greens and a blue. He cannot discard for that single yellow gem because he has no yellow cards. However, he can still choose to discard cards to gain gems. In this case, he would look at his hand and say, okay, I'm going to discard cards to gain gems. I'm going to discard 0 cards. So he's foregoing his 3-card draw in order to discard for gems because of that single card that's left. Because if he takes 3 cards, the game's going to end, and he knows that he's not winning right now. So, for his 2-card draw, he'll look at the 5 cards out here. He has to draw 2 cards. A Gib counts as 2 cards. So he's going to say, okay, I'm going to take this Confused. Or I'm going to take this Planner. If he wants the white gems, he'll be like, okay, I'm taking this Planner, because planners steal white gems. I'm taking this. The 1 card refreshes here. Now, at the end of the turn, after the 2-card draw, that's the point that you look and see if the deck's still there or not. There's no deck. We don't have to refresh these, so the game didn't end. But now that there's no deck, I take the discard deck, I shuffle the discard, and I form a new deck. So now we have a new deck, and the game's going to continue. If instead of discarding for cards, he said, okay, I'm going to draw cards. He says, I'm going to take this for 2. Then this flips over. And he's like, okay, I'll take this as my 3rd card. At the point that he can't flip another card over because the deck is gone, the game just ended. If another player has no Gibs, and you want to steal one of their gems with a sleep card, say we want to take this green gem, you have to use a sleep in the color of the gem that you want to steal. In this case, you target the gem. They cannot play a water card in response to this because they have no Gib. In order to respond to any attack, which sleep's the only one that really affects you if you don't have a Gib, you have to have a Gib to play a water. This player would just get the green gem and they would discard the sleep card. On a player's turn that has no Gib, they have an option to play a Gibless defense. At the start of their turn, they can go into their point pile, go through their point pile, look for any Gibs that they might want. In this case, say this player wants to get an alert Gib. They can take a Gib from their point pile and place it in play. They get no points for playing that Gib, so they do not get to take a card off of the draw pile or out of the open market. But they do get to put that Gib into play, and then they can play cards like normal. You are unable to play a Predator or a Sleep card without having to give and play. You are unable to collect gems at the end of the turn unless you have a give and play. If you have no give and play, you may only draw cards. To collect a white gem, you must discard a card of a color that is not in the middle for gems. In this case, if a player would discard a green gem, since there's no green gem in here, they may collect the white gem. At the end of a player's turn who has the end of turn card, you draw out a number of gems equal to the number of players minus 1, and they go to the general supply. So you would grab your gem deck, and for this case there's 2 players, so it would be 2 players minus 1, so 1 card. So 1 gem card goes to the general supply, and then players can discard to gain those gems. Then the end of turn card goes to the next player to the right. So it goes counterclockwise while turn play goes clockwise. At that point, both players count up how many victory points they have, which is in their score pile. They don't count the cards in hand. They'll have their score pile, they'll pick them up, just count how many +1s they have. And then if you look at the bottom of the gems, it tells you the player with the most gems gets +5 of this color. So for red gems, whoever has the most red gems, they get 5 points. Whoever has second most red gems gets 3 points. So in a 2-player game, it's 5 and 3. If they're tied, they both get 3 points. And the whole breakdown's on each card. But you go through each of the 4 colors of gems. You add up your points from that. You add up your points from your cards. In addition to majority points, every set of gems that you get, one of each of the 4 colors, is worth 4 points. White gems don't have a majority, but each white gem is worth 2 points. Whoever has the most points wins. Strategic play is a little different than basic play. In strategic play, you have no hand limit. Basic play, you have a hand limit of 10. So if you were ever over 10 cards, you would have to discard at the end of your turn. In strategic play, you get action points. You get 2 actions a turn. Your first action that you can take is drawing 2 cards. Drawing cards works the same way as in basic play. If you draw a Gib, it's 2-card draw, so you would only get to take a Gib. If you draw any other card that's face up, it's a single card draw. If you draw blind from top of the deck, it's a single card draw. So your first action is draw 2 cards. The second action you can take with your action points is to play up to 2 action cards from your hand. So if we say that this is a player's hand, they can play any 2 action cards. 4 different predator cards, and these are just defensive cards. So they could play 2 of these predator cards for a given action. If they use both their actions to do action cards, they can play 4 action cards. But that's all they can do this turn. The next action you can take is discard up to 2 cards to collect up to 2 gems. Note, there's 5 gems instead of 4 to start the game. There's always 5 gems here. At the end of a turn, if there's less than 5 gems over the general supply, you refill the general supply up to 5. In strategic play, gibless defense is an action. So in order to do a gibless defense, you don't get to do it free at the start of your turn. It takes an action to do it. And you can do it multiple times in a single turn if you really wanted, but there's not much reason really to do that. In strategic play, note that once the draw deck is out, it is not replenished. As soon as that deck goes empty, the game's over. Or as soon as all the white gems are drawn out of the general supply, just like normal. Scoring in the strategic game is the same as in the basic game.